everyone. Thanks for joining me here on Mom Squad. I'm Maureen Kyle, and this is a show where we talk to experts and fellow moms about all sorts of parenting topics. And let's be honest, raising kids can be tough and rewarding at the same time. Personally, my 3 kids are still pretty young, but when I'm out and about with them, so many people tell me, enjoy these moments. They go by so fast. And then I'm also told there's an excitement in seeing them grow into their personalities and become the people that they are meant to be. So in a few minutes, we're going to talk to Rachel Marie Martin. She is the author of Mom Enough, Inspiring Letters for the Wonderfully Exhausting but Totally Normal Days of Motherhood. But right now, let me introduce my co-host for the day, Holly Strano, mother to 2 teens right now.
Yes.
And we're talking a lot this morning about letting go of like watching them fly. Have you been experiencing that?
I have.
Yes.
And it's really hard, I have to say. I mean, it's sort of like that bittersweet.
Yes.
Because you obviously want them to soar and to do great things and all of that, but there is a bit of sadness that comes along with it. I mean, I would be sitting up here telling a tall tale if I didn't recognize that, because you do miss the little years. And when it was, I'll call it simple. In the moment, you're thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm trying to like keep them busy and running around and, you know, like what activity are they going to do next? But then when you get into basically young adulthood, it's just such a different amount of pressure and keeping them safe, and they're driving and just all these things that it's like, how are my babies doing this?
Yeah. And you know what's funny with my youngest, my husband's always like, you have to stop babying her.
Yeah.
And I'm carrying her, and she just turned 5. She's a small 5. She's a little petite thing, but like I'm carrying her. I'm helping her with everything, which I didn't do to the older ones.
Yeah.
But I'm
it.
having a hard time admitting like that she's not a baby anymore. So do you feel that way? I mean, when you look at, especially the baby, whoever that is in your family, for you,
that would be great. Yeah.
But like, do you have a hard time looking at him and thinking, oh my gosh, he's grown up?
Well, and then, you know, they go from being in the home nonstop to when they get to this period in their lives where, I mean, we were there.
Yeah.
You know, when you're a teenager, you've got plans on the weekend and you're doing things, and a lot of times that's all of a sudden, you know, my kids are gone.
Right.
It's like they're gone before they're really gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's a hard adjustment, and it seems to happen really fast. It's like once that license comes, that's that.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were all the same way, and we went through all these same things, but when it happens to you, it is really, I mean, like I said, I'd be lying if I didn't have full transparency and say that it is a little sad, but at the same time, you're so proud of them.
Yeah.
So you are. But it takes a lot for, I think, mom to get through.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because we're going to talk about more in a little bit about how to make sure that we are staying healthy, mentally happy as they go away and like start to live their own lives, because it's something that Rachel Marie Martin put together a whole book of letters that she wrote to herself, a journal on what it was like raising teens, going through that, mourning those periods. We had a chance to talk a couple of weeks ago. Take a listen. So I want to talk to you especially about the teenage years. This is your bread and butter. This is what you have been helping parents with for a long time. And I get a lot of questions about, oh, how do I cope with these difficult years? First, before we even get into that, why do you think the teenage years are difficult for parents and families as a whole?
Well, you know, it's interesting, because I think when they're young, you're like pretty much everything for them. You can walk in the room, their eyes light up, everything like that. And then the teenage years, because there's a natural pulling away, it's hard, especially as moms. You're like, well, just 5 years ago, I was everything. And now all of a sudden, I'm the person that's kind of causing some of the issues. So that part in itself creates a little drama.
Yeah. And the pulling away, I mean, does it mean that they want nothing to do with us anymore? Or do you think developmentally, and especially in your experience with your kids, like is it just that their mindset is different?
Well, it's actually, I believe, totally appropriate. We want them to fly. That's the goal of parenting, is like spread your wings, fly, do your thing. But then when there's that pulling away, there is this tension. I always say that they're first are our last. And so when we have those last moments, like when holding her hand or tucking them in or all of that, for them, it's this first moment of independence. And so it's this kind of balancing for us of knowing in our heart that this is what they're supposed to do. And for me as a mom, it's really gave me the definition of what bittersweet means. Mm-hmm. It's that letting go, loving them, but then kind of lamenting a little bit. Wow, look at how far we've come.
Right. Now you have a book compiled of your 40 letters that you wrote during the journey through the teenage years. Right. Overall, so why did you start writing these letters and why did you start journaling it?
I started writing online about 15 years ago, and I just started writing these letters to moms, and because I felt alone. And that's the funny thing about sometimes social media is it seems like everybody's there, but sometimes you can feel isolated. And so I just started sharing my real, like sometimes I feel like I'm failing, or sometimes I worry that I'm not enough. And in those letters, this community developed. Mm-hmm. And what happened is we all kind of started to realize, the more we talk about these experiences, the stronger we become and the more connected we become. And that to me is why I started writing them.
Yeah. What kind of lessons did you learn even through your own thoughts and process?
That motherhood is a lot about loosening the grip. It's, you think about when they're little, you hold their hands so tightly because they don't understand. You can't run into a street. And as the years go by, it's more and more of loosening the grip. And what's beautiful about it is it doesn't mean you pull your hand away and that you're not holding on. It's that your hand is always extended. And I think about even my older children that are adults now, they know that it's right there for them at any time. I am there, but I always say it's like this bravery to say, you know what, I'm going to gently loosen it. It's not like it's all at once. And for me, that's been the biggest lesson that I've learned is giving them the freedom and the trust and the kind of the excitement of being able to step into their own lane and to their own stories.
Yeah, and you mentioned that it's bittersweet, and it has to be heartbreaking a little bit to not have, I hear it all the time, oh, enjoy that little hand that you're holding and enjoy those moments because you're going to be sad when they're gone. Is there a sadness that you had to cope with?
Yes and no. I mean, there is the sadness. There's the sadness of, the words of my grandmother saying, it goes so fast. I never believed it when I had the newborn in my arms. There's truth to that, but there's also so much newness to it as well. There's this excitement with it to see them as adults and to see them really stepping into who they were designed to be. So the sadness to me, it's coupled with the joy part of it. It's both. It's both and.
Yeah. And the pushing away that teens do, that's typically where they get the reputation for having the teen attitude, which then just compiles. I mean, it's emotional to have your kid pulling away, and then you get this attitude on top of it, and moms are just exhausted. Dads too, but parents are just exhausted from the emotional roller coaster that happens. What advice do you have for parents when it comes to that?
Don't take it personally. That to me is the number one thing with that. And the idea of grace, like just grace for what they're going through. And if I try to remember my own teenage story, hormones, and there's all this, there's drama that they deal with in their social media. And there's all these things constantly going at them where they have to show up, where they have to figure things out. And because we're the safe spot, we are their landing spot. Sometimes when you're the safe spot, there is that attitude, that pushback. And I really sometimes look at it like that's because they know that no matter what, I'm going to be there holding my hand out, extending it there, showing up for them and being their person.
Yeah. My grandma always joked, install the revolving door at your house, because when they leave, they always come back. It's just up to them at that point. They're not little anymore where you're controlling that. What other lessons did you learn when you were expressing your emotions and just laying it out raw? And then you said you found this community. Did anything that maybe another parent tell you that like really resonated with you in finding that community and sharing those emotions?
Yeah, a couple things. One of them for me is the idea that it's super important for our teens and our kids at all ages to see us happy or doing things that kind of show that we're taking care of ourselves. It's really easy as moms to just keep going, keep going, keep going, and then hit burnout. And then when we're burnt out, we don't have the emotional capacity to go, okay, step back, deal with it. So for me, the most important thing as a mom is to make sure that my kids know that I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing the things that fill my cup, because like I said, if we're empty, there's not much to give.
Mm-hmm. And by being so transparent with how hard it is, and hearing other parents go, yeah, this is really hard. The teenage years are really hard. Do you feel like we got over that hump of like trying to pretend everything's perfect, or are we still in this Instagram, Pinterest world where we're trying to pretend like, oh, I've got the whole house decorated, cleaned, and my teens are perfect?
I think it's a mix of both, actually. 10 years ago, when I was first really writing, it was like I would see pictures on Instagram, a white couch, a toddler with a chocolate ice cream cone, no drips. I thought, how is that possible?
Yeah.
But and now I feel like it's flipped even a little bit the other way, where we're so raw and so we're so real. And I think that it's, again, going back to that idea of balancing. It's both. The teenage years are hard, but they also can be some of the most rewarding years that you've had. I know for myself, the relationships that I've developed with them, the being with them, the sticking with someone, even when it's tough, it's priceless.
Yeah. You've also written about learning how to let your teenagers fly and encouraging them to go out and be the person that they are. What kind of advice would you have for parents who are maybe just on the verge of the teenage years where they have to let their kids go and develop, but it's hard to let go?
It is. And, they're going to make mistakes. That's the bottom line. I look back at my years. You just make mistakes, but it's in the mistakes that you learn to stand up again. One of my favorite quotes is fall 7 times, stand up 8. And it not only applies to us as moms, it applies to our kids as well. And there's a lot of grace and grit that can happen in the moment when you decide, I'm going to stand up again. I'm going to try again. And that letting go part of it is, as you're venturing into it, they're really exploring, who am I? They go to school, they're asked, what do you want to do all the time? And so there's a lot of questions coming at them. And that letting go is letting them try. And maybe that's not it, but that's okay. You tried. What about this? And knowing that eventually, like I tell my kids all the time, in 10 years, you're not going to be sitting in Algebra 1 anymore. You're going to be in a new spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. Where can other parents find this community that you have developed? Where can they find you and your advice?
Well, I write online. My website's findingjoy.net. And then on Facebook, I have a large community. It's Finding Joy blog there. If you just search Finding Joy, you'll find me. And then I've written a new book called Mom Enough, which is, like you said, all these letters that I've written for moms throughout the years.
And it was so great to catch up with Rachel and talk about all of that. And I loved what she said, because right now I have some mom guilt. If I go do something for myself, I'm always like, oh gosh, I should be home helping them with this. But it is important to fill your own cup to make sure that they see you doing those things.
Doing other things. Well, and I had to sort of come to grips with that it's okay to have your own life, especially now that they kind of have theirs.
Yeah.
And the irony in that is they like having the house to themselves, If you're like leaving to maybe meet a friend or what have you, and going to be gone for a couple of hours, it's like, bye.
Yeah.
And they don't mind. And then they also know that you're, I guess, trusting them, giving them some independence, which they enjoy.
Yeah.
It's hard though, easier said than done. It took some practice for me.
Yeah.
It did.
And have you ever seen, like your daughter, especially with Jessica, I mean, as you are living your life, have you ever been able to use, whatever you're doing outside of them, of being their mom, as an example for her, and say, well, this is what I do, or this is what, does it come in handy when you're doing all of that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you try to give examples. Things are obviously different, and they're not still, the other thing I find is as teens, they're still not quite in that mindset totally, but I am able to relate to things like, you know, friendships and things that happen with other girls and relationships and all of that. And just to kind of hopefully, you know, guide them down that road of, yeah, this is going to happen, and so is this, and it'll happen again.
Yeah.
And, you know, mistakes are going to happen, and they're going to repeat themselves, and sometimes several times before it might sink in, but it's okay. And it's hard because you never want to see your child upset.
Right.
You know, and that's the hard thing. But you also can't shield them from everything.
Yeah.
So you have to let them go through some of it to understand the lesson learned.
Yeah. I even saw a meme or a video on Instagram yesterday where a girl was taking her mom to a concert, and she said, somebody told me or reminded me, my mom is living her life for the first time too, and it changed her. Where I think that it's good for kids to realize that mom isn't just there to provide meals and to provide rides and to provide everything for you, but when we go out and live our lives, that they realize there's life after teenagehood, you know, because when they're going through problems or something, they think, you know, teenage world is all that there is. But then when they see that we have, you know, friends and social lives, and we're going to concerts and we're going and doing things, that there is life way after the teenage drama or the teenage milestones that they think, you know, okay, well, after college, that's it, you know, party's done, party's over.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, they know that they have like the whole journey ahead of them. And I think that's very inspiring. And I think that nowadays too, it's sky's the limit. I mean, these kids, you know, they have dreams of dreams, and that's what you want for them. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to see them succeed, but you want to see them happy.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, what I try not to do is pressure them to do something that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
You know, I've always been very supportive of whatever that is. Jess and Grady are two very separate individuals with very separate interests, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
I think a lot of advice too, going back to something else that Rachel talked about, a lot of advice that I get has done a disservice in a way where people have told me, oh, it's, you know, one day it's going to be the last time you carry them and you pick them up, or it's going to be the last time you hold their hand while walking through a parking lot. And so I feel myself getting sad, you know, as I'm holding their hand and I'm thinking, remember this, and it's making me not enjoy those moments as much as like worry, what if this is the last time?
Yeah.
But then again, she mentioned that even though you have those lasts, there's a lot of firsts that are still ahead of you. Have you experienced some of those? Like, give some advice to moms like me that have the little ones where we're going, oh my gosh, what are we?
The last time I'm going to do this. But then you're going to have, you know, the first time that they come home and tell you about a boyfriend or a girlfriend and ask for your advice, or like it is true. I mean, someone once told me it gets better and better and better. It's just the betters are different. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you go from, you know, watching cartoon specials to that being awesome, to, you know, maybe having them in little ballet classes, to watching, you know, your daughter play volleyball and succeed, and being at those games, being so proud, you know, and things like that. So there are a lot of firsts that happen, or watch them soar in their grades and know that they're working so hard, or watch them travel and do things that, you know, are things that maybe were foreign to you when you were in school.
Right.
You know, because things have changed a lot since we've been in school.
Yeah.
And so the opportunities now are crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are there any moments that you have gone through or you're about to go through with teens where you've had to like take a step back and really like harness your chi and be like, okay, I got to get through this one.
Yeah.
And how did you get through it?
Calling my mother.
Yeah.
Calling my mom. And basically that is really a good point, is letting them be their own person. And sometimes you do have to take the back seat because you can't be that mom or dad, for that matter, that's always, you know, in their space, because they don't like that either.
Yeah.
And so there are boundaries, even though you're the mom. I mean, there are still boundaries, and I respect that with them. you know?
Yeah.
But it's hard because you want to just like dive in to every little thing, like when they were little.
Yeah.
Because you feel at that point you have to. But when they get to be this age, there does have to be those boundaries.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
And they've figured it out for
Yeah.
themselves, right?
Yeah.
In those moments.
Yeah.
I had on a previous Mom Squad, somebody had told me that if your child calls you in the middle of the day, you know, from school or after school or whatever, if they call you, as long as it's not an emergency, wait 10 minutes. Don't answer right away, but call them back in 10 minutes. Because the initial feeling was, oh my gosh, I gotta call mom. She's gonna figure this out for me. And if you wait 10 minutes, they'll calm down and they'll figure out the problem for themselves. And it was hilarious because as a grown woman, later that day, one of my kids was sick. I was trying to figure out schedules and I immediately called my mom because I'm like, Mom, I need help. She didn't pick up. She called me back an hour later. I already figured it out. It's like, it's something we always do where our initial reaction is, call mom, she'll figure this out for me.
Yes.
But if you give it space, then your child figures it out on their own.
And things just have a way of coming together.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That is a really good point because I think we all go into that sort of fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
Initially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Rachel Marie Martin had a lot of great advice. So of course, pick up her book. She does podcasts. She has a website. So if you need that, extra advice and mom community, she is one that you can turn to. And of course, you can always turn to us. We have a Facebook page. It is Mom Squad with Maureen Kyle on Facebook. And that's where you can share stories. You can share advice. You can share feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
Holly Striano, thank you so much for joining me. It's always good to chat.
It's therapeutic, as always.
It definitely is. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. We'll see you right back here on Mom Squad.